First question is Jack. Hey, Coach, just wanted to know what you thought happened offensively in the second half. How did the Storm, ramp up the intensity without forcing a ton of turnovers?
I thought they just recognized the moment. That's what, really good teams do. They saw that they needed to come out and punch first in that third quarter. They did it last game too. And I thought that they got to the 50-50 balls. I thought they started to get to the offensive glass. They started to get into the paint more. The ball was really pinging around. Every time we missed, they just came flying at us. I thought there was a moment there at some point in the third quarter where it was very clear that both teams were tired and they played harder. They looked like they wanted it more. And, the first half was a lot of good things. Just a night and day turnaround in terms of execution, taking care of the ball. They had some tough shots, that kind of kept them in it. Jewel going 7 of 9 from 3 again. It's like, she's just a really, really good player, and she's playing really, really well right now. And you combine that with our two, arguably our two best players, 4 of 19 and 3 of 12. It's just, you're not going to beat Seattle when you have that kind of a shooting percentage from the field. And I thought they were getting good looks and they just weren't going in. And it happens sometimes.
How do you think the shift in Howard pairing worked?
It did not look good tonight. It did not look good. If I'm not mistaken, that was right in the midst of that huge run. We were having trouble scoring. And they looked out of sorts. We looked out of sorts defensively. So, it's new. It's not to say that it's never going to happen again or can't happen again. And certainly it's not our ideal look. But we're a little shorthanded tonight. So we wanted to see if that could work out.
And the final one for me, why do you think Natasha was struggling so much with Mercedes and Rose?
I don't think she really struggled with Mercedes. I thought she just is a little rusty. She was, her footwork's a little, it's just rusty. Everything's rusty. She's rusty around the rim. She just needs to get her balance and get her feet back, and she's going to be just fine. That's why we kept going to her. We've got to get her feeling like herself again. And she didn't shoot it well, but she did a ton of things well defensively. She rebounded the heck out of the ball. I think she had 3 blocks. She had a steal. She had a ton of deflections. She just really impacts the game. And, she had a tough night from the field.
Thanks so much, Coach. Brian?
We talked the other night about how it's hard to steal a win from Seattle with how good they are. That said, it's a 2-point game with 3:22 left in the 3:21 left in the third. Is it still disappointing how this got away?
Yeah, no question. The disappointment, the shots not going in, if we're generating the shots we want, that's okay. It's going to happen. The thing that was frustrating and that I addressed the team about after the game was I was frustrated with the lack of defensive pride and with Seattle wanting it more. And it's a frustration that is necessary for our growth. They need to know and see what it's supposed to look like, what really great teams look like, in order to get to that point. So, we've got to remember this is Tasha's 3rd game with us. And, I saw the other day that it was like the Liberty beat the shorthanded Storm. And I didn't see one article that said, that anybody beat the shorthanded Liberty when we didn't have Natasha Howard and Sabrina Ionescu hurt. And, so it's like, we've been dealing with a lot with some of our best players being in and out. And so that said, to do what they did for the amount of time that they did was really great. And I think it's just us continuing to build on that.
Hey, Coach. Tonight, the team turned the ball over just 9 times. After the Storm scored 33 points on 21 turnovers on Wednesday, that was a big focal point you talked about before the game. What did you guys do well tonight in order to bounce back in that part of the game?
I thought they handled the pressure really well in terms of the traps. We used ball fakes and eye fakes much better. we didn't look as sped up, particularly in the first half. It's all the stuff that we've been working on that we just didn't do a good enough job of applying it last game. And this game, they were much, much better. Unfortunately, Seattle scored on every single one of our turnovers. I think they had 21 points on 10 turnovers. And that's, again, they're a really, really good team. Potentially the best team in the league. So it's really good for our players to see what they're capable of and to see that, that wasn't a fluke. It's not like we were hitting a bunch of tough fadeaway threes that we're banking in. We were generating the shots we wanted. We were playing good defense. But that consistency is going to continue to be something that we need to build.
And you talked a little bit about the team maybe not wanting it as much as Seattle. That was the impression that you had. In the first half, Seattle had 12 turnovers and then none after the break. Was that a matter of them maybe being sped up and kind of getting into rhythm, or was that some of that intensity that you were talking about earlier?
I think it's probably both. I think they're so good and experienced that Sue, I would imagine, can huddle them up and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. And they're all going to follow her lead, and she's going to make sure the ball goes where it needs to go. It's really a luxury to have the players that they have who can lead the way that they can and who have been through so many of these types of games that it's, down by one on the road is like a cakewalk for Sue and Stewie and Jewel. It's like, it's nothing, they've been there a million times. So that's something that our staff and our players, I hope everybody can remember that we need to go through these wars to get to where they're at.
Cortland Griffin.
How you doing, Coach? With 3-point conversion. I know everyone's talked about the defensive pressure, but one player that was really relevant in that was Dee Richards. Can you talk about her impact not only on the defense but the offensive side in this game?
Yeah, Dee was a big time spark plug in that second quarter. All three of those takes, she's really aggressive takes, and Seattle was staying at home on the weak side a lot. They were, comfortable in their one-on-one defense or the two in the pick and roll handling it. And so we couldn't, get as many get into the paint, get them into rotations, kick it out, generate threes. We still got some, but not as many. And I thought that Dee, her ability to get into the lane, take care of the ball. I don't think she had a turnover, and I think she generated 3 steals, maybe a block. She's creates jump balls. She's just everywhere. Her energy's fantastic. She's never a player that you ever have to worry about wanting it. Dee's a really, really special pickup for us. And she's going to be a great player. And tonight, and last game, we've gotten to see little glimpses of where she's headed. And it's really just scratching the surface. So yeah, Dee was huge for us.
And Coach, speaking on Dee Richards again, it was a couple of times in the first half that she drew Brianna Stewart on a one-on-one assignment, and she made her work for the buckets and drew and created some turnovers. Was that part of the plan, or was that just how the Seattle Storm ran their offense?
Dee's disruptive. I don't know. I wouldn't presume to say what caused that. It's just like the fourth quarter last game. It's, Dee's definitely a part of it, but sometimes shots just don't go in, but I did think that one possession in particular, she really did a great job staying down on a shot fake. She stayed in front of her, contested a shot. And game plan in terms of her guarding Stewie, it was actually Jackie Jamelis came up to me at some point in the second quarter and brought the idea up. We had talked about it and knowing that, Dee could probably hold her own against Stewie as well as anybody else, or better. And so she was the one who reminded me. And so shout out to Jackie on that, because I thought it went really well for that little spurt.
Thank you for your insight, Coach.
Jeff Magliuchetti.
Coach, despite a shorthanded roster tonight, Nay Odom was a DNP CD for the second game in a row. What does she have to do to work her way back into the rotation?
It's like I said earlier today, it's really a matter of who's playing well, not that Dee's not playing well. It's that Rebecca Allen that Nay isn't playing well. Rebecca Allen and Dee are are really playing well in their minutes. And so, we're staying with that because they've been generating on both ends of the floor. They're rebounding, they're playing tremendous defense. They're both shooting the ball really well. So, Nay's going to be just fine. It's just a matter of right now we've got players who we want to make sure we keep on the floor.
And Kylie Shook got some interior duties, getting on Stewie a little bit, and she had a solid stretch in the fourth quarter. Caught a couple rebounds, got to the line one time, I think, or at least hit a jumper. But what'd you think of her development? Because I know you said you wanted to keep that going, even with Natasha Howard back in the lineup. So what'd you think of the minutes Kylie contributed tonight?
Yeah, I thought she got a lot better in the fourth. She looked more comfortable. She looked calmer. She had a really nice shot fake drive, got to 2 feet, found a shooter. We knocked down a 3. It was just a really pretty play. The physicality, Ezzy was, really just pushing her out. She wasn't letting her get to her spots. She pushed her off the block, pushed her off the elbow. And we talked about it. Kylie knows that, we'll talk about this a lot and have talked about it a lot, that the physicality for Kylie is really the sticking point. And when she gets that, when she figures out how to consistently use her strength and her size, Kylie's going to be a really tough player, and the moments that she does use it, you see great things. So again, it's about being patient and giving her the opportunity to develop. And I know she will.
Appreciate your time and insight. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. Next up, we have Sammy, Beck, and Sabrina.
I think sometimes for us, a trend is if we stop getting stops, we look a little bit more rushed offensively. So I thought to start the quarter, it was fine. And then it just progressively, I think we just got a little bit more and more rushed. But I did like our looks. We weren't hitting them as like we were in that first half, I think.
Right. And to ask about the defensive intensity, what happened in between those halves?
Yeah, I mean, we lost a bit of momentum. I think the break happens sometimes, you cool down, whatever. And I think we just didn't do a good enough job mentally staying locked in, coming back out, fired up, ready to go. I mean, I will say, I thought we started the quarter okay. Like I said, we reached a point where both teams are really tired and fatigued. And, that's a championship level team. And they pushed past that, they pushed through that. And I thought we let the fatigue really impact us a bit.
So what does a game like this teach you when you have, really complete half, like the first half, and then the second half?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had a few of these though, honestly, throughout the course of the year, and it's the same lesson each time. Like, you don't win a game with one half. Like, you need to put 4 quarters together. And for us, I think, that how we start that second half is really big because it does create that momentum for us. And I think third quarters, have been an area for us of where we've really needed to focus and improve. And I think that was true tonight. I thought we did better in the fourth quarter, but we dug ourselves a hole against a really good team. So for us, I think just focusing on that effort, coming out, making sure we stay locked in.
Thanks, Sam. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Brian?
Coach Hawkins said he expressed some frustration to you after the game as a group. Since it's a close game, making the third, I guess how disappointing was that this got away? You're there with a very good team, as you know.
Yeah.
And it got away.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think with a team that is as good as this team has experienced, you can't give away possessions. You can't spot them. And I think it was things that we were doing that was doing that. We were, we weren't getting back in transition. They were getting buckets. We weren't doing what we needed to do defensively, whether it was on specific matchups or whatever it was. And I think in those moments, teams like Seattle capitalized, and they did it. We only had 10 turnovers, but they had 21 points off of that. That's remarkable. So it's understanding those kinds of things and coming out and just playing, I think, with a little bit more sense of urgency, because they were always going to, make a run, have their run. And I don't think we came back with a run quick enough. We didn't respond fast enough. We let it get to, 13, 14 before we responded.
You have to concern yourself with each loss is so important now. in
Yeah.
playoff race. How do you put that into words?
Yeah, I mean, they all do certainly, but I think for us, it's, Seattle's great. So for us in this 2-game period against them, like we had to split. I think that was probably our mentality, split. We have to get one of these. And now we're moving on and we've got another, we've got however many more, 3, whatever it is, home games left in this stretch. And we've got to be focused on first LA, first and foremost, we need, that's a must win for us as well. We have to make sure that we come in thinking that, and, we've got to just put ourselves in positions to treat every game like, it's as important as it is, and that will set us up for later, but we have to stay in the moment. So yes, the loss hurts, but it doesn't if we learn from it and we can apply it to LA and get a win there. Hi, Miles.
You talked a little bit about the turnovers, but from the other night, from Wednesday night to tonight, there was a large improvement.
Yeah.
And they only had 2 steals, so there are only 2 live ball turnovers.
Yeah.
How did you make that turnaround in just 48 hours?
I mean, a big thing was just addressing the traps, obviously, like they trapped us a bit. They were doubling or helping, I think, quite a bit, and they're very long. So I think the biggest thing was just adjusting to their length, their size. Katie Lou at the 3 spots, very long. Talbot's obviously very athletic. And then there's Mercedes, there's Ezzy, like they're just a long team. And then, so the pressure from the traps, the length, we weren't ball faking. We were throwing into their hands, those kinds of things. So it was a matter of really just addressing it, having a look at it. And then, all of us, I think, taking some accountability in that.
Thanks. And I wanted to ask you about Dee Dee Richards' performance tonight, because she was phenomenal on Wednesday, and then gave you guys a real lift in that, especially in the second quarter.
Mhm.
Was playing free safety back there,
Yeah.
and running the baseline and scoring in transition.
Yeah.
What did you think of her game tonight?
I mean, again, I love her growth. You can see that she obviously, her comfort is defense, and that's where she thrives. But I've really enjoyed seeing her confidence grow as well on the offensive end. I thought she was really aggressive. She didn't hesitate. She didn't second guess herself. And we need that. It changes how teams can defend us when they have to respect her, and they have to respect her, and she's proving that. So that will be really great for her moving forward. I think we'll continue to need that, but obviously, we love the energy she brings, the spark she brings, everything, and she was great again, I thought.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Miles.
Thanks, Penny.
Thank you.
Thanks, Penny.
Next up, we have Rebecca Allen, Sabrina Ionescu, and first question will go over to Jeff Magliocchetti once he gets settled.
You guys good? Greg and Sabrina, thank you for joining us today. How important was it to come out of that first half with a lead against a reloaded Seattle team? And what was the biggest difference Seattle threw at you in the first half in the second half from a player's standpoint?
It was super important. I think for all of us, it's how we come out, but I think obviously putting together 4 quarters is what's most important, and it ends up winning you games. But I think we came out, that probably was one of our best halves of basketball that we've put together this year. So it shows growth, it shows improvement, but I think it also shows us that there's a lot of growth that still needs to happen. And it's not good enough to just, come out and play a half. We got to finish the game. And I think that's what we didn't do.
What's the biggest lesson that you could take away from this split with Seattle?
I think there's a bunch, but obviously playing against one of the top teams, if not the top team in the league, is just, you can't take your foot off the gas. And I think that's what we did a little bit there in the third quarter. We came out, we punched in the first, and then, we let them punch us in the third, and that kind of just dug us into a really deep hole that we couldn't get out of. And so I think it opened our eyes a little bit to the fact that we got to put together 4 quarters of good and hard basketball and keep punching and chipping away. And we can end up, beating some of these top teams.
Appreciate your time and insight. Thank you.
Tonight there was a kind of a tough shooting night from Natasha Howard and Benajali, and especially early on, you were able to lean on both of your offensive efforts and also on Sammy. Can you talk a little bit about Sammy's game tonight and just what she brought for you, especially in that first quarter?
Who are you asking?
Either of you, sorry.
I'll go for it.
You want me?
Sammy just came in with just a lot of fight, and she was showing that she's scoring in multiple ways. I think that's just a great thing that you really see from her on this team in particular. And I'm happy for her to have a game like that against a team like Seattle and her former team as well. And it's also showing that, maybe the scoring isn't happening from two people, but it's also happening from others. I think if we specifically look at that first half, there's lots of good things that come from it. You see there's different scoring. You see Dee, she got really hot at one point as well. So like we've just said, I think making that 4 quarters is going to be massive for us.
Thank you. And the rebound, the major rebound from Wednesday night's game to tonight was you guys had just 10 turnovers when you had 21 the other night. What was the improvement? And only 2 of those were steals, so a lot of them were not live ball turnovers. What improvements were you able to make against the Seattle defense tonight as opposed to the other night?
We just stay composed. I think in the first game, we were a little sped up. Wasn't sure, what to do out of traps, out of switches. And I think tonight, we went back and watched a lot of film. And tonight, I think it showed we stayed composed. We took care of the ball. We made the right passes. We still had some sloppy turnovers that I think, we could have definitely eliminated, but it's just improvement. It shows improvement, being able to play a team like Seattle back to back, and being able to, have their star power back, but also, growing as we're doing that and taking care of the ball, listening to the stuff our coaching staff's teaching us and telling us every day. I think it shows that we're eager to learn and we want to fix those things that are going to help us win.
Thank you both.
Thanks for being here. I'm curious as to what did the Storm do defensively that was so disruptive in the second half, or was it just sort of a function of some of your shots not falling?
I mean, shots not falling are always difficult, but at the same time, they've got a lot of length. As we said, there's 2 big players that have come back into their lineup, but we show that we can compete against them really well. I think part of it is also playing through fatigue. This second part of the season is going to be intense for every single team, not just us. So there comes that mental side of, okay, now we need to play with probably just a bit more smarts with what we're doing, and just playing through that fatigue. I think that's going to be a big thing for us.
Right. And defensively for you all, was it a function of just not having the will defensively versus the will of the Storm? That's something you all have to work on, always having that will to go out there defensively.
No, I don't think necessarily. I think we all want to win. We all want to play defense. We all want to get stops. But I think it comes down to, sometimes we're a little bit out of it. Sometimes we take our foot off the gas. And I think that's when teams really punch. And a team like Seattle, that's veteran, they have the top players in the world on their team. They're able to take advantage and capitalize on that moment. And then you're not really able to dig yourself out of it. And so, I think we do have to look, inwards and realize, what we did, especially during that stretch where we both were, both teams were tired and we kind of folded, and that's when they took off. And so I think it shows us that's what we need to do as well.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Great.
Oh, wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining. We'll send a copy recording shortly.